Welcome to episode 15 of Chats. Today we're talking about taking on the world. I'm Corbin.
I'm Sarah.
And what I guess you'd be better suited to explain today's subject of not necessarily taking on the world, but taking on certain things.
Well, I think it's very appropriate. And thank you to our listeners for being patient and giving us an extra day this week. It's actually Tuesday.
We're recording.
Right now that we're recording, and normally we would be
Monday.
uploading the episode right now, and we usually tape either or record either on Sundays or Mondays. We try to do it Sunday. It gives Corbin a little extra time to get the editing done and all the production and make it sound slick and professional like. But it's been kind of crazy around here. The type of work that I do requires me to work every now and then on a weekend or a special event or an evening. And because it was Family Day, we had an event through my work that took place on Family Day. And I appreciated my whole family came out and helped support me and volunteered their time. And it was a good time. We had lots of fun. We were outside. It was a nice day.
Lovely day.
But that actually kind of ties in with what this topic is how much you take on, what you allow yourself to take on, feeling overwhelmed. Because I'm not going to lie, folks, I'm feeling a little low energy tonight.
Me
We've
too.
had dinner. Probably shouldn't have done this
one of
after
those
dinner.
Mellow, feelings.
Yeah, it's different when it's kind of later in the day when we record. So this came to mind after I saw a post on Facebook, a promotional video by Netflix on the Netflix Facebook account.
Okay.
And it featured an actress, and her name is June Diane Raphael. And you would know her better as Brienne. She is the eldest daughter of Grace on Grace and Frankie. She's a very talented actress. Beautiful, smart, funny. Like, she's the whole package.
Wow.
Then when I heard this come out of her mouth, I was like, I think she's my spirit animal. I think we're connected somehow.
You vibed with what she was saying.
I really did. Yeah. It was quite profound to listen to it, to the point I think I sent it to you.
You showed me in person.
I showed you in person, just to say, like, listen to this. And it's something that I have started doing, and it was subconscious that I was doing this. It wasn't something that I was actually consciously, enacting or doing or telling people I was doing. But when I heard her say it, it's like, yes, that.
Yeah.
So to be specific, what she does, and I encourage you to check it out if you're on Facebook and want to see it, just check out the Netflix and Google look up June Diane Raphael or Grace and Frankie. It'll probably come up under that too. What she says is that she has made a choice on what she wants to invest her emotional energy in. Mm-hmm. So emotion or energy. And what that looked like specifically was, she gives the example of she had a vehicle stolen.
Yes. And
the rest of her family kind of flipped out, which would be a normal response. And she just
average response.
Well, yeah, like, it's pretty traumatizing.
Mm-hmm.
And she felt that she did not want to use her energy that way. She felt strongly that this, although it was a very serious thing, it wasn't to the extent that she wanted to become a victim or have it suck a lot of energy out of her, or even in the retelling and rehashing to get that emotional upheaval in her day-to-day life. So she acknowledges that it happened. It's kind of like an oh well. And I'm sure the fact that she is a successful actress maybe plays into the fact that she is able to either have insurance to cover the recovery, for sure. But I think the bigger picture was what she chooses to put value into getting excited about versus not getting excited about. Mm-hmm. So,
or even getting worked up, not just being excited, but just getting worked up.
Yeah.
Giving any sort of emotional energy to the topic at hand.
Yes. So this kind of, for me, I was looking at this and thinking, this reminds me of conversations I have with your dad. Mm-hmm. And your dad and I kind of come from different places when it comes to information or how we communicate different things. So he'll ask me, 101 questions about something. What's Corbin doing? When's he going out? What time's he going to be back? When's his girlfriend showing up? And I sit there and I'll literally say, I don't care. Not because I don't care about you.
No.
But I kind of sit there and I feel like I have so much that I'm scheduled and so much that I have to remember, and that if you are considerate enough to tell me, hey, I'm not going to be home for dinner, for example, I'm not going to grill you 101 questions. Where you're going, when you're going to be home, who you're going with, why are you going that way? Now, it's different if you say, hey, we're thinking about checking out this movie, or, if you're sharing that information. And that's not to say I won't ever ask a question, but there's a difference between, how much energy you put into certain aspects of your life. And for me, the last couple of years, I've kind of been scaling that back. And I remember even when you and your brother first had cell phones, or, you're starting to get to that age where you started making plans. And different people would say to me, well, don't you know what the boys are doing? And I was like, yes, I know what they're up to.
Yeah.
I don't have their minute-to-minute schedule. And I would even encourage people and say, if you want to book something with Corbin, you're 15, 16 years old, you should maybe contact him yourself. Like, just go, don't put me in the middle.
Well, this is more so for my brother. I didn't really hang out very much.
No, but other people asking, whether it was your grandmother or your
Oh, yeah.
aunts or family, that type of thing. That's so they felt that they should go through me, which when you were little, absolutely. But there comes that age when it's like, no, I think that I don't need to take that on anymore. And that's where that phrase comes from, is take that on. Take on that responsibility, or take on that onus, or the stress of planning, or just keeping it on track of my day-to-day activities.
Well,
Again, it's not lack of caring.
It's if you don't believe in the emotional energy and just energy in general, you really should, or just try it. Just have it in the back of your head, day-to-day stuff, because you'll realize, I think it's real. And you have to kind of believe in it to understand the taking on aspect. You don't have to, but it helps.
Well, and for me, I just don't have the mental bandwidth to remember everything for every human being in this house.
Yeah.
Like, everybody's very busy. Everybody has their own schedules. And I think that's where you start realizing, okay, I'm not a helicopter mom. I don't want to be that type of parent where I'm, so inundated and intrinsic in your life that you have to check in with me every minute of the day. I think that makes you more independent. It keeps you accountable too, because if it's a case of you bugger off and you're not around for dinner and you didn't tell me, no, that's something you probably could have given me the heads up on, right? So it's a learning process. But again, I think when it comes to stress, people are taking on so much stuff.
Yes.
And that can be, this idea of being the optimum human being. And I know we did talk about this the other day. There's a lot of pressure for people to eat healthy. There's a lot of pressure for people to deal with issues such as racial issues and be correct. And I'm not saying politically correct. I'm just saying being correct and aware and engaging with things such as, racial history. And I know I'm doing that myself, reading a couple of novels. I think we've talked about that before. Reading about, the real, finger quotes, the real history about North America.
Stuff
because
they don't put in the textbooks.
Yeah, it's things like that where it's like, I feel it's important for me to understand this, but I can't beat myself up on the fact that it happened. I need to understand and do better moving forward. But when you put that beside, eating better, taking on self-care, I made even a whole list here. Yeah, dealing with my white privilege. I listened to a podcast on missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. I'm trying to, when you're constantly putting yourself in there, it's like, I want to know about this. That's something that I do want to take on. I want to be aware of that. And I know with February being Black History Month, that we've got an episode that we want to address next week.
Yes.
A little preview.
It will drop on Tuesday.
Yes, we're going to get our act together. But things like that where it's like you want to be the most optimum human being possible, where you're good to the environment and you're making smart choices and you're excellent with your money and you have perfect relationships and you're the ideal parent and the excellent spouse, and your marriage is, just tickety-boo. It's hard. You feel like, well, I'm a failure if I don't make time for my family, or I'm a failure if I don't make time for my friends. If I'm saving money and then I try to eat out because I want to spend time with my family, less time working in the kitchen, well, that means I'm spending money and I'm not being a good parent by buying takeout as opposed to a home cooked meal. And then if I'm cleaning the house, I'm not spending time with my kids. Like, it becomes kind of like an infinity cycle, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, well, I can't be all of those things at the same time. I have to decide what to take on,
Yeah.
right? And what's going to be important for me, and you know, self-improvement. Is it good for me to go out and spend money and do things like self-improvement or self-care when, what if your money's tight?
Yeah.
Right? So it's a struggle, I think, for a lot of people to try and figure out what the balance is and what to take on. And with the example that June Diane Raphael gave, it was more pop culture. Like, she didn't get too deep in it.
No, and that's probably because Netflix didn't want to go too deep into the topics and, you know, get political and all that. It's a safe PR move, but she did release the thought in you of, well, applying the take it on method into things, you know, a little deeper.
Yeah. And what it comes down to is to sit there and say, okay, I am not going to overwhelm myself. I'm just going to do the best I can. And there's certain things that I know I can improve on. And there's things that I'm going to try to improve on from time to time.
Yep.
And there's things that I don't know if I can improve on. I don't know if you believe in one lifetime or many lifetimes or reincarnation or what have you. I don't know if this go around I'm going to perfect certain things.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
You have to be okay with that.
Yeah. And I know, like, with your experience with what you've been going through the last couple of months, like, what you focus on and what you make your priority, I think for a lot of young people, it can be overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
To try and get to that point of, well, what am I going to focus on? Is school the most important thing? Is being popular the most important thing? And that's not, I'm not diminishing being popular, because there are people who need validation. That's a very real thing, that you need validation.
I wouldn't disagree with that. No.
Yeah. So to look at all those things and say, okay, well, how do I move forward and figure out what's going to work for me, what I can actually make a difference in, or what is doable for me, what I do take on versus what I don't take on. And I think that's something that everybody has to make that decision for themselves. Mm-hmm. But for me,
this is a lot of self-reflection as well.
Is.
That's what it is. And you have to take the time to do that. So it's, you know, it's like any other, you know, quote unquote, like, thing that helps you. You have to put time and a little bit of effort into it. Mm-hmm. Not a lot.
And apply it to you.
And apply it.
Because what works for me is not going to work for you.
No, of course.
And I think for some people that are putting that, you know, especially people that feel that perfection. I don't subscribe to the idea of perfection. No. I never have. I want to do my best. And that is what I struggle with, which some people say, well, that's just another way of saying perfection. I don't believe in perfection, because I think, again, that's subjective. It's different for everybody. For me, I want to do my best.
Yes.
I actually had this conversation with your aunt earlier today where we both talked about how being ambitious is not a bad thing, but it's perceived by others sometimes as being bossy or controlling or a negative as opposed to a positive. Yeah. And I guess it depends on what side of the motivation you're on. But it's all part and parcel of the same thing, where it's like, you know, you want to try and do something better, and you've got goals or aspirations or what you want to accomplish when you get to a certain stage of life, and not let things overwhelm you. So, you know, conversation I have with a couple people right now about American politics.
Yeah.
I cannot take that on.
No.
I cannot listen to that for any prolonged period of time, because it pisses me off so much. And sorry, trying not to swear too much here, but it does. It angers me to no end, this idea that there's something happening that for the most part people see as wrong or inappropriate or not befitting of that office. Not getting political, don't turn off the podcast just yet. But that's the example, is I can see where for me, I could go all day talking about that. Yeah. But I don't like how I feel when I talk about it.
That'd be the only thing you could take on, almost.
Well, exactly. It would negate everything else, because you have no energy after discussing it to deal with anything else. So I would prefer to say, when someone says, oh, that's terrible about Trump, or that's this, or that's that, or whatever party, I say, you know what? That's not even my country.
Yeah.
I have enough things in my country that I have to deal with, and things as being a white female that I am going to look at addressing without pointing fingers and throwing my opinion in the deep, dark well of opinions right now.
That honestly, and no offense, but opinions that like won't do anything.
Precisely. It's an
does-
exercise in frustration because you're not
Exactly.
going to accomplish anything.
No.
It's like they say, throwing water in a well. What are you going to do? What change is going to come from some chick in Canada shooting her mouth off? Nothing.
Nothing.
So that's something that for me I thought was an interesting, a very profound and interesting take on dealing with life and stress, and how we we allow ourselves to a certain degree to get wrapped up in things,
Very easily.
right?
Especially with online nowadays, with like the cancel culture type stuff.
Cancel culture?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
You don't know what cancel culture is?
Well, maybe you have to explain it to me.
Oh.
Maybe I know what you mean, but I just
it's
haven't heard it.
just if someone slips up once, everyone online, it's so easy to jump on the bandwagon of saying you're done.
Oh, yes. Okay, I know what you're
Yeah,
talking about
so-
now.
I forget why I said that, but it related to what you just said. Mm-hmm. So,
We say about social media and how everybody's so quick to jump one
to
way or
take
the other.
stuff on.
Yeah.
You don't need to take on, so and so doing something at some award show. It's like, why do you need to take that on?
Yeah.
It doesn't affect you.
Well, and to think it's like, okay, you know what? We all have opinions about everything.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I have one, and that's ironic because we're on a podcast right now. But just because you have an opinion does not mean you are morally obligated to force your will onto others.
No.
And that seems to be what's happening a lot of times. Is people being like, I have the right to say this. Yeah, but do you need
Should
to?
you? Yeah. You could, but should you?
Should you?
Yeah.
And I think self-editing is a big thing too. People going, yeah,
Filters.
that's... And I mean, we've had conversations in the house and on our road trips that we've said, yeah, that's my opinion, but, that's my opinion, and
That's the
to
end
each
of
his
it.
own,
Yeah.
and you just move on.
Agree to disagree, and then that's over.
Well-
But that statement's kind of gone out the window nowadays. And that's a very broad scope of the take it on. Like, it could be something very personal as well.
Yeah.
Something like, being more fit,
Yeah.
Maybe it's, I'm not going to take on as much TV watching time because, I should be up and moving. And also it's probably, wasting my time, like watching reality TV or something like that. Just, it could be little things in your personal life, just trying to relate it,
Yeah. Making it relevant.
Yeah. Because it's easy when you see a celebrity say some arguably funny, she was answering some funny questions in the video.
Yes.
But it's easy for people to write it off and say, sure that works. Sure it helps you, with your emotional energy.
Yeah.
But once again, you can't knock it till you try it.
Yeah.
And that, you know what? For all the stuff you may negatively take on in a day, this is something you could positively take on in a day.
Well,
you know?
and not everything she was talking about was serious, earth-shattering
Well, I
stuff.
know-
Like, she started off talking about
The car,
the
that was
vehicle.
the most serious. And even
And the rest
then,
of it was just things like, I mean, we've talked about, Harry and Meghan a number of times, and they asked her, how do you feel about Harry and Meghan? And she was like, oh, I definitely take that on, because she felt an emotional attachment to Princess Diana, and of course the sons by extension, and for her that was important.
it's a positive taking. It's almost like she's practically filtering the negative stuff that she can't take on from the positive stuff.
Yeah.
And even then, some of the positive stuff she didn't take on because she recognized that's a little too much.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
it's
and-
like a dinner plate. You have too much. You can't take it all.
well, especially if you want dessert.
Exactly. That's the sweetest part.
Priorities. But it's a good analogy, because I think too many people think they have to deal with everything. I know I've struggled with that from time to time. It's not my job to fix everything. And we've talked about that too with various personal things. Is like, you've got to make this decision for yourself. I can't make it for you. Or, with other friends and families, like, well, that's I am there to support.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm abandoning. But if I became the person that took on all that stuff all the time, I would literally drown. It would be, and people say, you can't literally drive. No, I would be completely overwhelmed with other people's stuff that I couldn't fix. No different than the American politics situation. Yep. I would be overwrought, and I wouldn't be doing a good job as an employee, a mother, a wife, taking care of myself. I've learned over time that there's certain things that I don't get as involved with. And it's nice that you guys are older too. It's hard when your kids are little.
Yeah.
But getting involved in your relationships with your friends. I maybe have an opinion about something, or we'll discuss, well, this has been a problem, or this is what's happened. But I'm not sitting there trying to fix things for people. Like back in the day I would try.
Well, taking on, it's an interesting topic, and even to get meta with it, taking on things like this, different coping mechanisms, or like energy and stuff like that. There's a lot of those that you arguably have to take on and off. You can't try every single one of these, celebrity or even real life, like aids, mental aids to you, because they might contradict each other, and it's just too much.
No, and they're not experts. Like I say, the only reason I'm bringing this forward for a topic is because it spoke to me, yes. And I kind of felt like, here's something
that could help others.
Yeah, it worked for me, and I was doing it without knowing that other people do it.
Yeah.
And here's something that could be helpful to our listeners, because that's, we do talk about topical stuff.
Yeah.
And it's kind of pop culture and kind of topical, but it's an interesting concept. So
well, you just need to manage your emotional energy. I think that's what all of it comes back to.
Well, and recognize people that are energy suckers.
Yes.
There are some people,
the leeches,
that are literally the black holes of need.
Yeah.
We all have them. We all know somebody, or several somebodies.
Yeah.
And you think you can fix it, and you can try. I know I've done that for a while with a couple people in my life, that you sit there and think, okay, this time it's going to work. This time it's going to work. Until that person is at the point where they want to change or they want to fix things, it will never work.
Yeah. Well, and this reminds me of, I was in grade 5 a long time ago.
Once upon a time, Corbin was in grade 5.
And I was sat at a table with, this is like our daily table, and there's 3 other kids there, a table of 4. And I was trying to the teacher was teaching, I was trying to get them to quiet down. They're being rowdy. And surprisingly, I wasn't the rowdy one. I was trying to calm everyone down. And she came over to me at one point, and she said, you just have to realize the ship has to sink. Sometimes you can't, salvage the ship. And
how was the ship? The ship was having a drink
the ship here. Was the kids,
the rest of the kids at the table.
And I was trying to save that and say, guys, let's not get detention, guys. Let's not get yelled out in front of the class. Let's. And she just.
And that was you taking it on.
That was me taking it on, and that was her coming over and saying, you don't have to take this on.
That's
Sometimes
cool.
You don't have to. And that's what I thought of that immediately after you showed me that video.
Yeah.
And so, it's odd because that was, however, many years ago, and I can't remember what I had, for dinner last night. So it's just weird things like that. But that's how,
It was impactful for you.
Yes, and it goes right back to the emotional energy, and that's the emotional side coming back and attaching that. So it's very interesting.
Yeah. Well, and there's so many people out there that are, like, when you talk to people just in day-to-day conversation, like, everyone is feeling the same way. Everybody's exhausted. Everyone is tapped out. Everyone's feeling stressed or anxious or overwrought. Mm-hmm. And it's like, why is this happening? And, not going to lie, we all know that social media and social pressure plays into that. But again, that's when part of it is, but do you have to comment on everything? Mm-hmm. Do you have to weigh in and give your uneducated opinion, or educated in some cases? I think when I realized I was not investing it that way, I actually felt better. I'm not putting my energy out there to say, I have to know what's going on, or I have to have the final say, or I'm the one that's going to decide, everyone's schedule.
Yeah.
You sit there and go, yeah, I don't have to do that. It's a very nice feeling to think in a day and age when we all feel forced to do a lot of things, that here's something I don't have to do.
No. Well,
it's freeing.
Yeah. And another idea that came to me about this is there's like a subsection of this, because you're bringing up things like topics that you don't have to take on. And I'm thinking of the subsection of things where you have to decide when you take it on. You know you have to take it on, but maybe it's not good to take it on at that moment. Because I have
the timing
yes.
or procrastination?
Well, no, timing.
Okay.
I personally have a problem with things in the future. And
How so? What do you mean?
Well, I'm going to explain it.
Okay,
so,
sorry.
That's all right. It's so say there's an event a week from now. There's absolutely nothing I can do to prepare for it. Like, it's already, like, everything that needs to be done for it is done. And I just, I'm taking it on every day. But there's nothing for me to do. There's nothing for me to, like, as you said, it would just be me kind of the equivalent of someone in Canada talking about American politics. You're doing nothing.
Right.
You're doing nothing to solve the problem, or in this case, you're doing nothing to help the end goal because you can't.
So when you're thinking about whatever it is all the time, is it a case of you're worried about what might happen or being prepared on time, or is it just you just think about it on a loop and it's just in your mind?
It's a thinking thing, and then eventually it might turn into thinking about alternate ways things could go at the event, or just in your own mind. So it's one of those things where if I don't take it on until I need to,
right,
then it's not a problem.
Like a reasonable length of time,
exactly.
like a couple days before.
Yeah.
And depending on the seriousness of it, because I know I've had different occasions throughout my life where I had to deal with something negative. And with my personality and how my brain works, I'd be the type that would literally lay there and I would think of all the different scenarios. If this were to happen, this is what I'm going to do. If that's going to happen, that's what I'm going to do. If this and this are going to happen to me, then I'm going to do that and that, which was great because I could be very prepared. And people say, how do you come up with things? I've already run it through the hamster wheel.
Yeah.
Once or twice.
Always thinking.
But again, there's a fine line for that too. And if you're becoming overwhelmed or anxious about something, that's when you have to try and take a step back from it and say, okay, it's not good for me. And I think that's the difference between, is it motivational? Is it something that's inspiring you, or I'm taking this on because it's positive energy and it's motivating me? Yeah. Well,
it's giving back. It's not always giving back to you, but somehow it's a positive. It's somehow a positive.
Yeah, it's a motivational energy as opposed to there are people who get quite a buzz out of negative energy, and you see those people
they feed off
at different times. It'll be on social media where you see the layering of griping and complaining, and people start feeding on each other, and it gets ugly, right? So yeah, I thought that was an interesting concept. It was something that made me think after, and it's so funny because I know that's not what it was meant to be.
No.
I know it was meant to be a great promo for Grace and Frankie, and if you haven't watched Grace and Frankie, a little plug. It's an excellent show.
Netflix, give us a sponsor.
Exactly. No, I love Grace and Frankie. Everybody on that show, that's such a tight cast. It's awesome. But like I say, that's why I listened to it, because I love her and I love the show. So I thought, this will be a fun thing to watch. And then I listened to it. I thought, oh my God.
It's weird how you take it to something out of the weirdest things.
It just completely spoke to me. And then, once we had the chance to talk about it, I thought, this will be a good segment for the podcast. But I'd really like to know what our listeners think and get your feedback on that. If you feel any of this has been helpful, or if you feel that, you've got a different way of coping with stress.
Yeah, if this has been a light bulb moment for you, or do you agree with our thoughts on the emotional energy, and hopefully we don't get any of those very negative hate feeders.
Well, we've already said if you want to give constructive criticism, we're always open for business. If you just want to gripe and chew, that's okay. You can do that on a American political website. So, but no, we do love the feedback, and we really appreciate the people who are liking and sharing and
it's awesome,
and giving us the love on social media. And just to reiterate, if you are wanting to follow us on Facebook, got to check out the Chats Podcast on Facebook. Sure. We also have a YouTube channel for people who don't want to download a social media platform or an app. An app.
You don't have to log into YouTube. Every other streaming service, Apple Music or Apple Podcasts,
Google Play,
Spotify. And Spotify. You have to make accounts. YouTube, account free. You click the link. You're there. You're listening instantly.
But you can subscribe, so it'll give you a little.
Yes, it'll notify you whenever. Or you can follow our Facebook page, or do both. That'll probably be the best. You can do that You can also follow on Spotify,
Yeah.
Google Play. It's just either the like button or there's a follow button somewhere. And if you click that, you will be notified. It'll save to your library. It's very helpful.
Yes. And so we also are looking forward to hearing from you on our email account, which is chatspodcast@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you.
We check it often.
We do, yeah. We love hearing from you guys. So and I haven't even run this by you, Corb.
Okay, well, let's run it by me now.
But I would love to know if there were topics that our listeners would like to hear.
Yeah.
Like something that you're like, hey, we want to know what you guys think about this topic. Mm-hmm. And
or if they share like an article or a piece of something for us to help go off of, or if they just want, they just send us a topic off the top of their head. Yeah. Well, for sure.
We'll tackle it. Mm-hmm. And as we've said right in our name, it's conversation, humor, and topical stuff. So we have a really wide range of discussions that we like to have.
We've already had a wide range of topics.
We're like 15 episodes in and we've covered like everything from soup to nuts. So.
Exactly.
But no, we really appreciate you taking the time to listen, and we look forward to hearing from you on any of the platforms. Tell a friend.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Well, this has been me, Corbin.
And Sarah.
Thank you guys for listening, and stay tuned for our latest chats.